Hi, good day everyone. In this video, I'll be focusing on the examiner's advice in answering section B, composition, which is focusing more on narrative writing, which is tested in paper 20500 first language English paper. Okay, now let me start sharing the advice with all of you. Okay. So when we mention narrative compositions, okay, it's very important for the candidates to decide on a tense and stick to it. But what I would suggest would definitely a past tense, okay, because when you start with present tense, I just feel that some candidates have the tendency of jumping to past tense in between or in the middle of the essay. Therefore, stick with one tense if possible. Okay, and like what I have mentioned just now, try your level best to write in past tense. Okay, now it's also very important for you to decide how you are going to end your story, because the ending can basically help you to think for a proper climax and how can you basically plan your story well. So it's not only about how you're going to begin your story, but in fact how you're going to end the story should be considered before you start writing. And don't try too much, because when you cover too many events and will ended up making your story irrelevant and not very convincing. Because imagine that you're just writing a short essay, a short story consists of 350 to 450 words. Therefore, when you have like too many events, somehow you may ended up writing very poor plot or coming up with a very poor plot. So it's very important for you to just choose certain key moments, okay, and then you may skip the rest of the events, but make sure that it is basically consistent. That means it's not like your development of the story, that means your rising action is very long and then suddenly you end your story abruptly without even a climax, for an example. So make sure that everything is basically equally contribute to the idea. That means a proper introduction, and then you introduce the conflict, and then at least two scenes for you to basically rise the action, and then you give a proper climax, and then you resolve the problem, and then you give us a good ending. Okay, and again, characters, like what I have mentioned, 350 to 450 words of essay, of a short story requires about 2 to 3 characters only. So do not really go more than 3 characters, because the more characters you have, then they will become less effective. That means their roles would not be very effective in your story. Okay, so in order for you to get this top band, it's very important for you to focus on the structure. That means how are you going to frame the story, whether you use a flashback or whether you use foreshadowing. Okay, so these are all definitely very important for you to get good marks, because these devices can somehow make your story very interesting, and it shows that you are definitely a good writer. And even when you use dialogue, make sure that the dialogues must show the personality of the characters. It shouldn't be just like simple dialogue, which will not allow us to know about the personalities of the characters well. Okay, and apart from that, instead of you using he said, she said, you can make it a little bit more interesting. Perhaps you can say she answered quietly, or she shouted angrily, just to show that emotion. Because when you use the word said, that means we can't really see the emotion, because it's actually written idea. Unless if it is spoken, then we know the expression, the emotional state of the person who's saying that dialogue. But in writing, seems that we can't really have that feel of hearing the dialogue. Therefore, it's very important for the writer to choose appropriate verb in order to express the emotions and also feelings of the person who's actually delivering the dialogue. Okay, now, so it's very important for you to write your narrative essay descriptively. Like descriptive essay, you don't tell a story. But when you are writing a story, it's very important for you to write it descriptively. Therefore, you are allowed to use figurative language. You know, that means you're allowed to use adjective, like personification, metaphor, hyperbole, whenever needed. Okay, so whether to choose a first or third person point of view depends on the question. By the way, some question allows you to use both, so you need to know the advantages and disadvantages of both first person and the third person point of view, but do not switch the viewpoint in the middle of the story without your realization. Okay, and it's also very cliche for you to end the story with, oh, I woke up and it was just a dream, oh, and then finally I woke up in a hospital. So these are definitely cliche and might not really what you call that, attract or to grab the attention of the examiner. Okay, now apart from that, it's also very important for the candidates to use interesting details to engage the examiners. Okay, and do not exaggerate. That means too much of blood, something which is too gory, or something which is like, you know, too fake, will end up giving ridiculous storyline. So like, do not give something which is too extreme until we can't really make any relation. That means your storyline should be very convincing. Okay, and you may use your own knowledge or experience, or else you can obviously adapt it from a book that you have read or a movie that you have watched. But it's very important for you not to copy and paste that means plagiarize the plot, but you can always take the plot and then adapt the plot and then put it in your own words. Okay, and yeah, like what I've mentioned, always keep a balance in the different parts of the narrative. So do not have like longer rising action and a very short falling action, and then you just abruptly end your story. That means it has to have a balance, what you call that, yeah, balance part. Okay, and then yes, end your narrative deliberately. There are so many narrative ending strategies that you can obviously use, whether you want to end your story with a moral lesson, or you want to end it with a dialogue, or it's going to be a sad ending or a happy ending or a circular ending. Okay, or there is a plot twist at the end of the story. So always end your narrative essay effectively. Okay, so yeah, these are some of the techniques that I would like to share with you. So I hope that these techniques are very helpful, or this advice, all the advice given are quite helpful for you in order to write a very good narrative essay. So thank you very much, and happy writing.